In basically every vision of the future, be it from the 50s or 60s, or even to current sci-fi movies or books or series, in basically all science fiction depictions of the future, humanity has developed vehicles that are capable of some sort of anti-gravity propulsion. Be it the old retro-futuristic visions from ages past where Jetsons like hovercraft of sorts were imagined, be it the spinners from Blade Runner that fly through the air without any visible form of propulsion or exhaust or propellers, or be it the flying cars from Back to the Future 2, or the flying cars from The Fifth Element, and many more such depictions. All these futuristic flying vehicles have in common that we imagined that in the future we would have some sort of exotic form of anti-gravity propulsion. But is such a form of propulsion even possible? Will we ever be able to build flying cars or other devices which can bend gravity to their will? Does physics even allow for such drives? And how far are we today with research on that matter? How does the spinner fly through the air so effortlessly in Blade Runner? How does the flying DeLorean in Back to the Future fly without any visible exhaust? How do the shuttles from Star Trek fly so easily without any visible propellers or exhaust through the atmospheres of so many planets? Well, this is of course never really explained anywhere, except for maybe in Star Trek. But who understands Geordi's technobabble anyways, am I right?
No more bulky warp engines or nacelles. A ship just generates a soliton wave.
So basically in all these science fiction universes, it is assumed that technology has progressed sufficiently enough that we discover some sort of mechanism which would allow us to manipulate space-time in such a way as to allow a vehicle to fly without any visible form of exhaust, or any jet engine or propellers of any sort. Now, we currently don't have any theory that would even explain how such a form of propulsion would even work. Now yes, the area of warp field physics is slowly evolving, with people like Miguel Alcubierre or Harold White being pioneers who showed that indeed bending space-time might be possible after all, with negative or exotic energy. Dr. Harold White even showed that this could in theory be achieved by arranging many Casimir plates into a ring structure, which would effectively create negative vacuum energy and hence in theory might allow for faster than light travel. But this is still theoretically and unfortunately would not be applicable to a flying car. So for flying cars, we would need something else. Well, how about superconductors? If one day room temperature superconductors are discovered, like LK99 would have been, or some even claim still might be, well then we could build almost flying cars, not quite, but we would be very close to hoverboard-like technology, which might be one step into the right direction. Because superconductors have the fascinating property to trap a magnetic field inside them, thus allowing for a superconducting material to float in the air over a magnetic surface. Truly fascinating. But this is unfortunately, of course, therefore also not suitable for flying cars that would want to fly hundreds of meters above the surface. So we would need something else. We would need true anti-gravity. Well, if only we could have the technology of UFOs, that would be truly something. Which, according to some high-ranking military officials, is actually exactly what some top-secret black-budget programs within the US military have been trying to achieve since the 40s. When, again, according to some whistleblowers, the US military was able to retrieve at least one extraterrestrial craft. Well, this is of course all hard to prove, however the idea in itself is fascinating. If UFOs are real, according to many witnesses and some footage, they would be capable of extremely fast maneuvers, zigzagging around, accelerating to insane speeds out of nowhere, and so on and so forth. So basically, if they exist, they probably use some sort of anti-gravity propulsion. They would create some type of field which would interact with gravity and bend space-time around it in such a way as to move effortlessly around. In fact, the craft itself would stand still, but it would just bend its surroundings and would thus be able to accelerate instantly without harming its occupants because they would not feel a thing, being in their own gravity bubble, so to speak. Unfortunately, of course, it is not publicly disclosed if the US military is secretly working on such technology, and so it seems that for now, this remains a mystery. But according to some theories, and let's be clear, this always goes very fast into the realm of conspiracy theories, some people have actually been working on anti-gravity propulsion, possibly inspired themselves by tales of wondrous craft from other star systems. An American inventor called Thomas Townsend Brown claimed to have invented anti-gravity propulsion in the 1920s, but it turned out that this effect only worked by ionizing surrounding air molecules, and so therefore this unfortunately turned out not to be a true anti-gravity effect. It was also too weak to be usable for flying cars. Bummer. Then of course there's the famous Podkletnov rotating disk experiment. In the 1990s, a Russian scientist called Eugene Podkletnov claimed to have created an anti-gravity device, namely a rotating disc constructed from ceramic superconducting materials. He claimed that he did an experiment in 1992 in which he could observe objects being placed on that rotating disc to become lighter. However, these experiments unfortunately never could be replicated in a satisfactory manner. But apparently, in his free time, he is still working on the rotating disc experiment. And here is a video from 2020 supposedly showing an anti-gravitic effect from his device in action. As of today, it still remains to be seen if this is a true gravity shielding effect or if this is another effect. But still, I find it fascinating that research has been or is being conducted in that area, and I hope that more research will be done in that fascinating field because we need more unconventional thinking. But there is also the famous Chinese-American physicist Ning Li, who is said to have worked on anti-gravity. She also found, like Podkletnov, that an object loses mass above a rotating superconductor, namely up to 2% of its mass. She published these results in 1997, but then she kind of vanished from the scene. But according to a recent 2023 interview with her son, Li continued working in secret on anti-gravity technology for the US Department of Defense until 2014, when she had to stop due to a car accident. What became of her work, nobody knows because it was never made public. And according to her son, her work still remains top secret and classified within the US military. Fascinating stuff indeed. If this is true, anti-gravity might be possible, but the problem is that this is so far beyond any technology that we currently have that immediately the powerful militaries of this planet will want to have it for themselves, and themselves only, in order to gain an advantage over their adversaries. But unfortunately, in the public realm, anti-gravity research gets very little attention, which is baffling since this would be a gigantic breakthrough, comparable in its importance with the invention of the wheel or of flight. The problem, of course, is that we actually have no theory of quantum gravity which would allow us to be able to understand how such a device would even work, and how anti-gravity would be created, and what conditions such an anti-gravity device would have to fulfill. And we saw that even if such devices would be created, and that is a big if, the US military or other militaries would be very fast to make sure that only they would get such anti-gravity devices. And so we see that currently we don't even know if anti-gravity technology is even possible or not. Now, I personally suspect that it probably is possible, simply for the reason that the universe has its way of every time surprising us, and we shouldn't be so arrogant as to think that this or that is impossible. Because remember, once many reputable scientists said that flying was impossible. So one day, hopefully, that technology will be discovered. It will be based on new physics, a new understanding of gravity, which goes beyond what we currently know. Well, the aliens seem to have already found out and certainly laugh about us with our stupid little propellers and jets or rocket engines, but until we can find such a technology for ourselves, it seems that flying cars, for now, will have to make do with jet engines and propellers. And then possibly in 100 years or so, new theories might allow us to build such devices. And then in the further future, certainly not within the next 20 years, we might actually then get true flying cars. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, because we'll continue making videos about interesting technological developments. And please consider supporting us on Patreon or via a YouTube membership, because that would allow us to make more and even better videos. Thank you so much for watching, have a nice day wherever you are, and see you next time. What some top secret black budget, according to many witnesses and some footage, they would, which were certainly too small for, delete that sentence.